So our session was No to Gender Apartheid in Afghanistan. In our group, we discussed the situation of women under the Taliban, its impact, its long and short impact, which it has on the women in Afghanistan, and the socio-economic impact which this situation might have in the long term for women around the world. We discussed this in just 2 years. Decades of progress have been systematically reversed, with around 15 million young women and girls previously enrolled in universities and schools now banned from education, female civil servants, lawyers, private sector workers and businesswomen losing their livelihood and being excluded from all aspects of public life. This is happening in the situation that we all agreed that the world is taking very small steps to make the situation better, to recognize the situation of Afghan women, especially to recognize this as being an apartheid. And apartheid is happening in Afghanistan, and people do not talk about it. So this was something which we all discussed and agreed about, that this is something which needs to be recognized. Our recommendations and demands from the European Parliament. Labeling the discrimination against women under the Taliban as gender apartheid. Please push for that in the international community. Not recognize the Taliban regime as the representative government of Afghanistan. All Taliban members should be banned from traveling abroad. All political centers that somehow lobby for the Taliban should be blocked immediately, including the political representation of this group in Qatar. Identify and cut off any channels of international financial support of the Taliban group. The European Union and the political representation of the European Union in Afghanistan, together with the United Nations, in addition to implementing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, should document current historical injustice, oppression, and human rights violation, especially women's rights violations, and be the voice of Afghan women in important international decision-making forums. The European Union and the international community should react against the countries supporting the active terrorist group in the region and the Taliban in Afghanistan, and express its position clearly. And that is something which we discussed a lot, because although openly everybody condemns Taliban and are talking about apartheid in Afghanistan, but at the same time, they are working with Taliban. And that is something which we want the international community to show their position clearly and to announce it. The European Union and European policymakers as facilitators facilitate meaningful inter-Afghan dialogue to create a temporary government with the real participation of all sections of the Afghan society, including women. Financial aid and humanitarian support and development for people, development support for people, especially women and children in Afghanistan, should be continued through aid agencies, not through Taliban, which is a very important part. We discussed it a lot. The European policymakers should support the human rights activists, in particular the protesting women, and take practical steps for their immunity. Afghan women whose lives are in danger under Taliban should be helped to leave Afghanistan and receive support while leaving the country, not when they are at the doorstep of the European countries. Because when they are here, they are already safe. They already passed a lot of dangerous steps. So please, we do that in a lot of other countries. That is something which we can do in Afghanistan as well. So that is something which we all agreed about, that this is, I think, European Union can and should think about that. The European countries should provide scholarships and work visa for eligible Afghans who are inside Afghanistan and want to leave. There are a lot of educated men and women, especially women. Perhaps they do not fit to this accepting requirements, and they do not have that, but they can work because they have high educations, and perhaps they can come with a work visa. And also, a lot of people want to study abroad, young Afghans whose lives are in danger. At the same time, they cannot study or they cannot go out. So if we provide them scholarships, I think that will help the life of a lot of people. Last but not least, together with the UNHCR, the European policymakers should support the Afghan immigrants and refugees in Afghanistan neighboring countries to have access to education and work, and maybe to be evacuated. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Patoni. Nice to see you again. Yeah, and you also sent us your recommendations, yeah?